The Process Podcast, breaking down the daily habits, processes, and tools of high achievers. Now, here's your host, Brad Wilson.
Hey there, boys and girls. This is Brad Wilson with the Process Podcast. As always, if you haven't taken a moment to subscribe to the show, let's just take a second right now, press that little shiny subscribe button on whatever service it is that you're listening to the podcast. And if you would like to learn more, look at the show notes, find my guests on the World Wide Webs. All that information will be at mentallyinvincible.com/theprocess. Today on The Process, we have Adrian Walker. Adrian's the founder and CEO of boataffair.com. And the typical label for Adrian would be venture capitalist and entrepreneur. But after getting to know him better, I would say that in his heart, he's a creator. Whether it's art, business, or a mixture of the two, the act of creation and then having a bunch of unforeseen problems that he needs to rise up and challenge are the things that allows his soul to breathe. And in our conversation, we're going to discuss leaving a job in corporate finance where he was on pace to be a top 10 to 20% earner in Switzerland to make way less money pursuing his passion, his very real fear of stagnation and checklists, how to shake it off like Taylor Swift and grow thicker skin when it comes to facing outside criticism regarding your life and your creative ventures, and so much more. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with my friend, the brilliant and daring Adrian Walker. Adrian, good morning, my friend. How are we doing?
Good morning, Brad. I'm fine. I'm fantastic. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm very excited to have this conversation with you and share it with my audience. And I want to start out by asking you to tell me about being a musician and playing the piano.
Right. Yes. Thank you for that. Thanks for the intro. The pleasure's all mine. The piano. I used to play the piano, and I started at the young age of 6. I loved it. I used to give or play in front of an audience as well. When I was a bit older, at the age of 15 up to the age of 20, I used to play in front of audiences. What that taught me was to focus in that, I wanted to get a piece absolutely right. I wanted to get it perfect. And I would sit at that piano for hours until I was satisfied. And I remember so often that early on, my mother, obviously, but later on my colleagues would tell me, look, this is really cool. This is good. You're good to go. I would tell them, I don't think so. And I wanted to have additional hours at the piano. So it taught me to focus on the task at hand, I think. And it taught me to perfect whatever you are, whatever it is that you're doing. That's what piano taught me. And then, of course, the fun factor. It gives you great pleasure, and it's a lot of fun to then be able to perform whatever you've practiced so hard in front of an audience.
How did it make you feel when you got through your performance and got to hear the audience's reaction?
Well, in the first 2 or 3 seconds, you feel fear because you don't know what the audience is going to react like, to be honest with you. So every time, no matter how well it went or how badly it went, first 2-3 seconds, you feel fear. And so you turn your head to your right. It's mostly to your right, actually. In my case, it was anyway. And you look at the audience and you try to gauge what they're up to. But then after 2-3 seconds, the applause would kick in. And then you feel this immense relief coupled with satisfaction and joy. The pride that you delivered something that particular audience actually likes, if not even loves. So it's a mix of those emotions. It's not just one emotion. You go through a whole variety of emotions in that particular order, in my case.
Did you ever get surprised? Like, did you ever feel like you had an off performance, but the audience enjoyed it?
I did. And that, surprisingly, that's one of the recordings I still got on CD. And I remember that recording That was in a big city here in Switzerland, and I played that song. It was about 10 minutes, and I knew I made a lot of mistakes. I was nervous that evening, and I myself, I knew I'd made mistakes, and that's when I didn't react. That fantastic reaction from the audience. They didn't. I still don't know today, but I don't think they've noticed. But what you take from that is that it's all right to make those mistakes. I'm not a robot, so no matter how hard I practice on the actual evening, on the actual day, you're still a human being, and there's so many factors that influence us. Yeah, your mood, how you've slept, what you read in the newspaper that morning, how colleagues behave in front of you, what they tell you. I was just very nervous that evening, but the day after, I did it again, and it went a lot better. So it's about falling over to stand up again, I suppose.
And for this, it's the same for the singular members of the audience, depending on what their day was like, their expectations, having a distraction to make them feel better from their lives. I've had the same experience with my podcast. I've had interviews that I've finished and I've thought, oh, I left a lot on the table. I did not do very well. And then I've got the feedback has been, oh, I loved it. It was inspiring and awesome. And I'm like, really? I thought it wasn't my best effort, but
isn't that interesting though? I know exactly what you mean, and it's happened to me so often, not only during a piano concert, but also in business, right? That you have your own perception of what you're doing and of how you come across, in front of other people, and that can be off sometimes, yeah, because we tend to be hard on ourselves as well. You've got your own high expectation, and you might think you haven't met those expectations, but others still love what you're doing. So. And what I'm learning as well, still today, is that you have to somehow see how others see you, and you have to take that into account, And you don't have to, whatever you do, be it a podcast, be it an article you write, or a piano concert, it doesn't have to be perfect for people to love it. We're humans, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. I've also made a lot of poker training videos, and a lot of them are like real-time narration of strategy, but then sometimes there's a more theoretical type of video about studying or different things. And I made one theoretical video, and I felt that I had a goal. I wanted to get it done in 4 hours. So a 30-minute presentation in 4 hours. Pretty aggressive goal. I got it done. I submitted it, and I just had anxiety for months over that presentation. Like, oh, how are people gonna react? And it turned into my most popular video and got the most positive reaction out of all the things that I did. So there's this.
Wow. It's an awesome story. Yeah.
Yeah, there's this like perception of the things we do versus how other people experience that I think. There is a disconnect, and the only way you can really find out what's going to resonate with people is to put stuff out there and kind of, put yourself out on a limb. Yeah,
that's absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I'm just thinking back to what I told you 5 minutes ago when I used to, after finishing my piece on the piano, I used to turn my head to the right, to see the audience. That's exactly that moment. You put something out there, and then you just want to see how they react to it. And that might not be in sync with how you're feeling, right? So I totally know what you mean, yeah.
Did you ever have a negative reaction from the audience?
Having played a piano piece?
Yeah.
Not from the audience, no. I have got, negative reactions either from my immediate teacher, who was very harsh with me because he had plans. He saw the talent, and he wanted to take me far, but I didn't feel that. I didn't want to become a professional pianist. He'd be very harsh. And then my immediate colleagues, when I played in front of them, because they knew me well, they probably felt it all right to give me very honest feedback because they knew how well I can play, and they would see when I'm off as well. So from immediate, if I play in front of a group of 10 people, then the reactions can be, let's call it, varied, but only because it's meant to be constructive. In front of a big audience, I've been lucky enough, I'll tell you, to get that round of applause. I'm not saying it was that 100%, satisfaction rate. Perhaps 10% was just flattery. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. Yeah.
Did you ever imagine getting the crickets though, getting the negative reaction before the performance, that anxiety?
Yeah, of course. And I would get it the day before. I would get it while I was trying to fall asleep, and you sort of start to imagine how people might react. And, you go from one extreme to the other, yeah? You're kind of hoping, and based on experience, you're going to think it's going to be all right, yeah? But the other extreme, in your head, as you're falling asleep, as you wake up in the morning or wake up during the middle of the night, is that, what if somebody actually interrupts me during my playing a song, a Beethoven song or a Mozart song?
You get heckled.
If they get up and, my number one fear was always, what if they like the guy performing before me better than my performance? And I always used to compare my level of performing to others too much. And I think that's the number one mistake. If you were to ask me what's my number one mistake I made and what was my anxiety about, it was about comparisons. So I compared myself a lot to the guys, who played with me on the same concert or who played the evening before. And in my head, I kept having these thoughts. What if the audience prefers the other songs or the level of performance of the other guys? And in retrospect, I would say to myself, if I was able to talk to myself at the age of 20 now, if I was able to give advice, I would say, shut those thoughts out. You're doing your thing at the best of your ability. They're going to love it or not, but do not compare yourself to other players. Everybody's going to have a different level, a different style. Do your own thing. So,
yeah, I love that, because I think most people, whenever they're taking on an endeavor, they start a business, they want to compare themselves to Elon Musk or, Richard Branson. But the only thing that we have control over is being our best self. When you're playing the piano, you could be the best Adrian that you could be on that night, instead of comparing yourself to all the other people. We just have to drown out that noise, be the best self that we are capable of on that day.
Yeah, Brad, and I really, really love that, because, for me and for my team, and I think for most people, it still applies today, yeah, in business, especially with social media, all those channels. Yeah, how easy is it to scroll through LinkedIn or Instagram and feel like, oh, my life is boring. Here you see this guy having the most awesome time at the beach, or this guy is having a fantastic career in a corporate, and you see that on LinkedIn. And how easy is it to question what you're doing, yeah? But that's just the same principle like I explained with the piano, yeah? If you let in all the noise, you can go absolutely nuts and crazy, yeah, if you let it in. But if you focus, again, that focus aspect, if you focus on your task at hand, you get immediate feedback from the people and the customers that matter. You have to learn to get that thicker skin and to shut out that noise. Yeah. So that parallel is absolutely valid, from the piano to applying it in business. At least for me, that's very valid.
And a lot of that stuff is just pure fiction. It's a fantasy that other people paint for you, and I try to not pay attention to that as much as possible. As a matter of fact, it's kind of funny. Yesterday, I was explaining to my researcher who finds guests for me, and then I vet them. I was explaining to him that there's two people that we're going to avoid completely. Anybody that has a picture of themselves standing in front of a private jet, automatically disqualified from coming on. And also like an Instagram model who's famous for just basically being almost naked in various places. Like we're just avoiding those people completely completely, because it's not a realistic picture of life. And it's not, to me, it's not very interesting. I don't think I've been around people that have owned private jets, and I see their own suffering and the how they feel about life, and it's not, it's not in parallel with the picture that they're painting for the world.
Yeah, I love that. At the end of the day, ultimately everybody has to ask themselves, yeah, why are you doing what you're doing? Yeah. Now, in our case, I'm not building my startup to be able to buy private jets or to buy a super yacht. I mean, I enjoy my family. Yeah, I enjoy what I have already. I used to have more money when I was working for a corporate, right? Before I entered the startup world, and yet I think I'm happier now. And how easy is it to fake it? Yeah, as well on social media. And I mean, even though you, me, Brad, we both know it can be fake on social media. Yeah, I mean, to me, it still happens when I don't know, you're tired on a Sunday evening and you feel like, let me browse Instagram for 10 minutes, and then you see like 20 fantastic posts of 20 different people on the beach or I don't know, having a fantastic time, and you've had not such a fantastic day. It's easy to fall into the trap, isn't it? Still, even though you know it's fake. So I suppose we have to just work on it on a continuous basis. Even though we know it, you have to train your mind to shut out that noise, ultimately, in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think I mostly just try to stay off social media so that it doesn't even enter my headspace. That's the goal. That's what I try. So I want to go back. Can you tell me why you decided to be an accountant, stop, not pursue being a professional pianist?
Yeah. So with the piano, it's very simple. I just lost interest in that. I knew I'd have to practice, I don't know, 8 to 15 hours a day. And I just didn't feel that anymore. I didn't want to, go to the next level and sit at that piano for 10 hours or 15 hours. I was very curious. I wanted to experience more. So I finished high school in Switzerland, and that would allow you to go and study in Switzerland, right? And that was 2001. And I didn't want to go and study either because I wanted to experience different things and, different countries. And I wanted to work. So that's how I got into finance, because I decided to work for a boutique accounting firm, very cool one in Zurich. And I started by saying, I want to do this for 3 months only. I really liked it because I'm also the guy, when I start getting into a matter or a topic, I want to understand it to the full. And that happened with finance. I found it interesting. Just, the T accounts in accounting, debit and credit, and how to be able to measure a business and the business success and the finances, the cash flow. I wanted to really understand it. So I ended up working in finance and not having studied yet at university for 1.5 years. So I worked in finance for 1.5 years and I enjoyed that time. But then it was time to get out of it and to go traveling. I went to Mexico for half a year, learned Spanish. So I got that language in as well. And then I went and studied at university in Zurich. I suppose I just found it very interesting how you could measure the objectives of a business and everything that it entails. So from human resources to finance to certain KPIs, strategy and marketing. If you study management and finance, you get to understand that. So I decided to do that, and I knew that's going to give me a good base to go on from there. And after that, I went into accounting a bit more. I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers, a Big Four company, for 5 years, and I did a lot of audit and consulting there. The reason I loved that was that I could deal with different clients almost on a weekly basis. So every week we go to a different client. I could learn about a different type of business every week. I got to consult them on finance and strategy. So that's how I got hooked on finance for for exactly a decade. So for 10 years I was doing finance, strategy consulting. That's, I think, the answer to your question. Out of curiosity really, and then wanting to go deeper and understand it really.
How did you feel when you graduated as an accountant in 2007?
That was 2011 I graduated.
Oh, 2011.
No, don't worry. In 2007 I started PricewaterhouseCoopers. I got trained there as a chartered accountant, graduated in 2011. And that was the weirdest day when I got the results, because for so long, you're so nervous and you really want to qualify. You work so hard towards that. You get the results, and it's like an anti-climax in that you have the degree. Then you start, in my case at least, I started thinking, right, well, there's this, they're out there. I understand finance to, a certain extent. That was satisfactory for me. I didn't want to go beyond that level. I know about strategy. I consulted big companies. I traveled the globe with that firm as well. What else is there out there? So all of a sudden, to answer your question, within one day, that accounting degree got almost worthless for my personal emotions, if that makes sense, for my personal, not for my personal life. That sounds totally wrong, but on an emotional level, it just didn't bring anything anymore.
What do you make of that feeling?
Well, it was an empty space for a few weeks. I felt very empty. I achieved what I wanted to achieve, knowing at the same time that I need to change something. So that emptiness, let's call it that, pushed me to seek many, many conversations with my peers, my colleagues, my superiors, my dear friends. And I just realized, thanks to that empty feeling, that I want to explore something new now. So, if we look back, I did piano concerts. I used to sing in musicals. I worked in a hotel in Mexico and in Spain. I did a lot of finance. The curious side of me then just took over, I suppose, in 2011. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way at all. On the contrary, I suffered there because I had to find a way to go forward. And I think that's the key trigger why I decided to move to London, from Switzerland to London, to pursue an MBA, where I got to meet new people and study new fields, new research, new topics.
And about that transition to getting your MBA, was there any advice that you received that pushed you towards that decision, or was it more of an internal thing that you just needed to do for yourself?
I mean, it was mostly an internal thing within myself. I knew as I was qualifying as a chartered accountant, I knew that one day I want to do an MBA, and then that empty feeling hit me. And I, perhaps because I had this creative streak early on in my life with piano and musicals and travel agencies and hotels, I knew that I don't want to stay in finance forever. So that emptiness and that I wouldn't call it depression. It really propelled me to think what else is there out there. And then I sought advice from people who had done it. And that wasn't easy to find in Switzerland, because a lot of people in Switzerland would advise me to stay in your corporate. You've got everything that you want. You've got 2 degrees, got a good salary. From here, you can make it to partner in a big 4 company, so your life is sorted. So I had to go against all that. I sought advice. People have done an MBA, transitioned their careers.
From a financial standpoint, what does making partner mean? Just from a monetary perspective.
In a big 4 company, in a big corporate, making it to partner means that you have a stable income, that you can afford a lot that other people can't. You're probably in the top, 10%, top 20% of earners in Switzerland at least. But it also means that you've got big responsibility. And I also knew that from many partners who told me that, it feels like a golden cage. If you stay in it too long as partner, there's almost no way to get out of that, because you earn too much. You buy too much. You have a house, you have a car, you have a holiday house. You can't just change your career after 10 years of, having been a partner for 10 years. You can't just change. You need to change into something that brings just as much money. So I knew that's like a golden trap if you pursue that very well. I already knew what an empty feeling feels like, having achieved that degree. What if I really make it to partner because I really wanted it, and then I achieve it, I feel empty again? That's too much of a risk, that golden cage. So when I said to you 2 minutes ago, I listened to a lot of people, I also mean that I talked to partners who told me about that very openly. I was very grateful there, to be honest, as well.
Yeah, that's very smart strategy. You talk to people that were in the situation you were striving to be in and ask how they felt about being a partner and what was their life like. I think that's something that everybody can do in their own careers and their own lives. If you're trying to be an author, speak to successful authors. Ask them what their life is like, what they wish they knew. These questions that can really help you make decisions about your own life. And you mentioned the creative side. Can you tell me about your love for experiencing things creatively and creating things?
Yeah, I just find that I love building things, be it a startup or be it building an Instagram channel. I love building things. And I also mean practicing a piano piece and performing it. It's like you build something that you perform and produce. I just love that. And I do not like things to be repetitive, I suppose. So this is what's beautiful in a startup. Every day you face challenges that you did not anticipate. There's no checklist for that. So in finance, there was too many checklists. And at some point, you know them by heart. And I lost interest, as do many people, but not everybody admits that. So I love creating something from scratch because you get to, you see challenges along the way, which forces you to talk to many people. You meet people along the journey that you didn't know you're going to meet. You're one example. You are one example, right? We would not have met if I hadn't started my startup. I'm now on podcasts being interviewed, not on a regular basis, but, it's happened a lot this year. I would never have thought that 2 years ago. I didn't know what it's like to be in an interview. So that's one key point. I believe if you're open, you're creative, you want to go out there and build something, things will happen you don't anticipate and doors will open. So that's the fact. And the fact that I love about it. I know that certain doors will open, but perhaps the ones you don't anticipate. And as long as you're just doing checklists, that's not going to happen. At the end of the day, it just makes life a bit more interesting. And you're only here once on this planet. At least I believe that. But that's a whole different topic.
I mean...
Does that answer your question, Brad, to a certain extent?
Yeah. And everybody wants life to be an adventure. Right? We don't want to get to the end of our lives and realize that it's just, you see it in like a movie montage where a whole room of people are all typing at the same time and all stop at the same time. And it's very mechanical. We want to live a life that is true to ourselves and is fun and exciting. And we have new challenges. I think, at least for me, that's my life experience. And that's what I enjoy doing. And if I wouldn't have started this podcast, then I wouldn't be speaking to you and I wouldn't have created all the relationships that I've created. I'm very much, we're kindred spirits in that way. I don't like, for 14 years, I played a game where you get 2 cards and you make a bunch of decisions and millions of hands of the same exact thing that even though challenges, you face new challenges, you stagnate in a way where, okay, I can study for 4 or 5 hours for a month straight and I improve incrementally from, the top 0.1% in the world to the top 0.05% in the world, right? It's very incremental improvement.
Yeah. But I love that. I love that word, stagnation. You just mentioned that word. I think that's something I was really scared of. For many, many years back in my corporate career. I didn't want to, feel that stagnation. I grew dissatisfied as a result. As a result, you might make bad decisions. Yeah, you start perhaps, going out on a Friday evening. That ultimately brings you nothing really. There's no return there. And then you realize, all right, something's off, and you start thinking what it is. But that's the key term there, stagnation. That's probably what I meant as well in my previous answer. So thank you very much for sharing that. It's a very good word. I'll keep in mind. That's what I meant. That's what I was describing as well. Yeah.
Awesome. And you're right. When you live a life of, you feel stagnated, sometimes you'll make bad decisions that are not in your character just to break it up. Just to experience, just so something, it might be catastrophic, it might be horrible to your life, but you do these things just to break up the monotony and get something new. So you go to London, you get your MBA. Can you tell me about getting involved as a VC and getting involved in startups?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did my MBA at Imperial College, London, and I chose Imperial College because I knew that they're very strong when it comes to entrepreneurship. So what does that mean? That means they host startup competitions, startup events. And so if you study there and you're interested in this topic, you can meet a lot of entrepreneurs and you can mix with them. So I did that. There's a lot of events I went to, and I started to meet founders, with crazy ideas, biotech companies. They were looking for team members. And I just registered and I joined one team, a biotech company. We did a competition. I helped this founder to write his pitch deck. And
what was their idea? What was this idea for that startup?
In a nutshell, that founder had a crazy idea how to cure cancer in a different way. Now, I will admit to you that I can't really explain it anymore, how she wanted to do that. That's now almost 4 years ago. But she had a valid business plan. We took it to the judges. We went very far. So my point is, I loved meeting all those people. I loved participating in those events. And it really showed me as well that I enjoy discussing various topics like strategy. We have to discuss business development. How does that make sense when you tie business development and marketing to certain financial figures? I enjoyed pitching. I enjoyed presenting in front of the crowd all of a sudden. And I realized I'm good at this. I'm good at speaking. I'm good at, negotiating. And so I learned I found out that I'm good at a few skills that I didn't know about actively, like negotiating or talking or convincing people and coaching people. So the most valuable thing that I took with me from that time in London is that I found out about a few skills, a certain skill set that was there, but nobody really showed me that, hey, this is what Adrian, as well. I loved that. So I wanted to stay in that startup ecosystem because it really gave me what I was looking for. It presented me with daily challenges. You get to meet many people in various fields. So after the MBA, I joined a VC company, and that enabled me professionally to look after startups, review their pitch decks, strategize with them, ask them they seem simple questions, but you have to ask them. So questions like, what's your goal? What's your aim? How do you want to bring this product to market? So I could sort of apply my curiosity in this, certain aspects of my skill set in the job. And that's how I got into the startup world during and after the MBA.
And it's a culmination of your life experience. I love that, we've talked about I love that you've talked about the piano and performing and that perfectionism that you had. And also when you perform in front of an audience, I think that sort of inoculates you towards speaking and doing the presentations, right? You develop that skill at an early age that was useful later in life. And the accounting and finance side, a lot of the pitches, a lot of the things made more sense to you. They were pieces of the puzzle, but with startups, you got to explore all the creativity of exploring these crazy ideas and talking to these different people. So it sort of just makes sense for you, right?
Yeah, that's such a neat summary, Brad. I have to hand that to you. I really love that summary because let's take one example: that speaking and playing the piano. Yeah, playing the piano, you have to shut out the noise, as we discussed. You focus on what you want to perform. Same goes for public speaking. You know what you want to deliver. As with, performing, in front of an audience with the piano, you don't know how they're going to react. You don't know whether they're going to like it or not. So what you do, you can pay attention to all that noise in your head, or you just focus on what you want to deliver in terms of a message and deliver it, right? In the best possible way that you can, in the most articulate way, but also in the most entertaining way. So I think that mindset, that I acquired when I performed, with the piano applies for public speaking well, as one example. So I love how you connected those two dots there for me.
I think we all have skills in our closed world that we've developed and honed over time that are useful in many areas. But a lot of times we develop fixedness where, you apply playing the piano in front of an audience to specifically playing the piano, but it's also multifaceted and you have all these other aspects to it, like performance and performing under pressure and all of these things.
Anxiety, those demons in your head you want to shut out. And to be honest, Brad, I'm not saying that they're not there anymore. I've never said that, They're obviously still there,
You're just capable of dealing with them much better.
Yeah, well, I'm not a robot, so I'm never going to say I can deal with them fantastically well at 100% all the time. it depends on the day as well. Yeah, but yeah, of course, on the big picture, I would say I can deal with it a lot better than 15 years ago, because I've been in so many situations where I had to deal with them. Yeah, and you learn how to control it, but admitting that you're controlling it implies that all is still there. Yeah, the demons and anxiety.
Of course, that's what I meant. You're able to deal with them better than somebody who hasn't experienced them previously.
Yeah, I believe, especially when I look back on my last 15 years, perhaps, I think one key fact is to actually admit that it's bugging you, that it's there, that anxiety. And that first step is probably admitting that and then talking to people about it, because that then takes you to the next step, which is the willingness to actually deal with it. But first you have to recognize it and admit that you have it and that you want to change it and do something about it. And that takes courage, and it's obviously not done within a day or two. It's a bit of a process, yeah.
I agree.
I think, in my experience, I'm just talking, of course.
I think social proof is important. Hearing that other people struggle with the same things that you struggle with, a lot of times give you the courage to try to make an effort to overcome them. And when you know somebody else has overcame a similar thing as you, that also gives you proof that, hey, I can do this. This is how he did it, and now I'm gonna also go after it in my own way.
Yeah, I've got one good example which I can share if you like, and that's I like doing videos on LinkedIn. Like those videos where you talk about a topic for 1 to 2 minutes, and then I post it on LinkedIn and Instagram, perhaps, or in an Instagram story, and I get very positive feedback, and a lot of people listen to it, and people tell me it's cool what you're doing, but it's still I still feel scared on particular days to do that. Yeah, I feel like I can't do that. This who wants to, you have thoughts like, oh, who wants to listen to what I've got to say, and now I've trained myself to actually do that when I feel the worst about it, and somehow that's when I get the most positive feedback, or the most, okay, stupid to want likes. I don't want likes on social media, but still there's a correlation there when it's not forcing myself to, but it's perhaps looking in the mirror and saying, look, this is just your demons or your anxiety talking. None of this is real, really, yeah? Because yesterday you're feeling fantastic about yourself. Today you've got your demons. Just shut them out and now do it anyway, and do it anyway. Do it now, yeah? And that's when I get the best results. So that's just an interesting story I wanted to share. If somebody's listening to this, perhaps if it helps just one person who's listening to go out and do it despite the demons in your head, then it's already worth it, me sharing this, yeah.
And I feel the same way before I do every single podcast interview. I feel the same anxiety of, it's not going to be good enough. I'm going to fail this person that I'm talking to. My audience is not going to get enough value. I deal with this in my conversation with Adam Creek, gold medalist rower. He told me that before every world-class rowing competition, they're trained to feel that anxiety and be thankful for it, because it's energy that they use in a positive way.
Yeah.
They're thankful for this anxiety, thankful for this energy, because it's going to make them do better in the thing that they're about to do, which I love that. And I think about that too. Every time I'm about to come on and talk to somebody, I think I'm grateful for this anxiety. I'm going to use this energy in a positive way. And this interview is going to be better because of my anxiety.
Thank you so much for sharing this. That's us being very, very open. I love this. And as you just said, you said this 3 or 4 minutes ago. Yeah, it feels good to see that others deal with similar issues, and we're not alone. Nobody's alone. So thanks for sharing that. That's fantastic.
My pleasure. So let's go back to your story now, and
let's do it.
In the VC space, you and your wife. Firstly, can you tell me about your wife, how you two met and your relationship and that stuff?
Yeah, we met in London now many years ago, 5-ish years ago. We connected on so many levels. My wife is my best friend. She's the one who truly understands me. We understand each other. There's no hiding anything from each other. That's the most beautiful relation relationship I've ever experienced. And what's so fantastic about it is that we connect on so many levels. So we also, we the co-founders of Boat Affair, we run the company together. We connect on that level as well. We can work really well together. We can brainstorm together. We can be really annoyed at each other as well for 2 hours. And that's the most beautiful thing, because after that, the conversation becomes more constructive again. And we know and we believe that it's a tremendous asset that we have. And we're just very thankful to have met, because on a private level, it's so fantastic. We have it's weird, but the exact same interests. We challenge each other, and I think that's what brings me so much. She challenges me in my thought process. We talk a lot. We talk a lot about these topics as well, Brad, like anxiety, how we deal with it, how open are we about it in public, and we come to realization this is absolutely fine to feel this. It's absolutely fine to talk to people about it. The more we talk about it, the more people approach us and say, wow, we're so glad that you guys are talking about it. Now I can talk about it as well. So with all these examples, I hope it becomes clear what sort of relationship we have. So we in addition to that, we also had the common goal and desire and passion still today to found a company together, only in an area where we really felt passionate about something, where we really see a gap in the market, and that's how we connected over the topic of startups as well. And that's when and how we started Boat Affair again, which was about 2 years ago.
Tell me about that transition from, again, the more corporate life to running a startup with your wife, the transition period, the anxiety that y'all had in starting Boat Affair, and then actually deciding to pursue Boat Affair itself. Where did the idea come from?
Yeah. So my wife, CV-wise, has a similar situation. She worked in a big corporate company in London for many, many years, and also felt like, there's a certain degree of stagnation. There's more to be done out there. She's also from an entrepreneurial family, so she also is very, very creative and curious. So we bonded over that as well. So you're asking me why and how did we start the startup? I want to start by saying that it was really crucial and key to shut out the noise as well when we started, especially in Switzerland. Switzerland, people here, they really love their careers. If you just quit your job to start a startup, you've got some explaining to do in this country. In Europe in general, I think more so than in the US. I've noticed that. So it took a lot of courage, and of course we did a lot of talking and brainstorming. And at some point, you just have to make the decision and then go for it. Go for it and stick to the decision. So we decided early on in 2016. We are adamant and we were certain that we've discovered a market gap. We have had a lot of feedback from boat owners and people in our industry, the yachting industry, who confirmed this market gap. We started building this platform, and then we quit our jobs. And that was not as scary as we thought it would be. I'll be honest about that. It was very scary during the decision-making process. You start, the demons appear again in your head and tell you, ooh, what is everybody else going to think about you though in Switzerland? Shut that out. We shut it out. She shut it out. We shut it out. We went through with it. So that transition period involved a lot of having to be very strong from a mindset perspective. So we did a lot of exercising. We did a lot of walking in the forest just to clear our head on a regular basis and to stick to our decision. So Boat Affair is our startup. And you also asked me, well, how did we come up with the idea? So Boat Affair is a boutique boat and experience sharing company. We rent out quality yachts in over 40 countries, and we handpick our partners so that we know we can provide quality yachts for our clients who demand quality. We are boat owners ourselves, and we have a boat in the south of France. I live in Switzerland. I use my boat 8 times to 10 times a year. It's totally underutilized, and with the sharing economy concept and digital platforms, we knew that there's something to be done here. We knew we could utilize my our boat a bit better. So we started building Boatifair. With Boatifair, private boat owners can join us and become a member of our boat sharing or boat swapping community. So we have a lot of boat owners who approached us and say, look, we want to share our boat. We love meeting new people. We want to go to a platform where we can meet like-minded people who are passionate about the sea, people who are passionate about boating. We want to go to a platform where we can meet those people. So one example is we've got a boat owner in Canada who is looking for a boat in Brazil, but he doesn't want to rent a boat in Brazil. He wants to meet a boat owner in Brazil and just sail with that boat owner for a couple of days. And then in return, he would host the Brazilian boat owner back in Canada. So it's like a boat swapping thing. And with this community is fairly new. It's like 3 months old on our platform. And we are now, getting traction on that. Just today, a boat in Switzerland went live again, a sailing boat, because the boat owner found us and told me, look, this is fantastic. It's risk-free. I'm in control of the process, but the upside is huge. I'll get, potentially I'll meet boat owners in Switzerland or, in over 40 countries who want to visit me. And in return, I can go and visit them on their boat and exchange sailing stories. We can sail together, and I can meet people on this platform I would not have met otherwise. So that's Boatifair, boutique boat and experience sharing company. And we had this idea over 2 years ago on the sun deck of my motorboat when we realized we're not really utilizing our boat properly. We're paying far too much in maintenance and insurance to justify ownership of a boat. But if we could make more out of our underutilized boat, it becomes worth it again. Yeah, it becomes interesting again to be a boat owner. Hence, the boat sharing community we created.
There's that old saying that the two best days in a boat owner's life are the day that they buy the boat and the day that they sell the boat.
And in between, it's like a black hole. You just throw money in it, right? You never see the money again. And we exactly want to change that. So now by owning a boat, it unlocks a lot of value and potential. You meet other boat owners. You get to experience other boats free of charge without the rental costs in our boat swapping community. So whatever you pay for your boat brings you much more now, because you get to meet so many more people and you can be their guests on their boat. And prior to Boatifair, you had to pay rental. You needed to rent that boat. Now you can experience it through our platform, and you will host people on your boat as well. If you want, you're in total control.
I think it's a great platform, and it's more experience swapping, giving the world more experiences with like-minded people. And I think that that's something that you can work on a daily or regular basis and feel good about it.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned that word so prominently, experiences, because we believe that people don't want to just rent a boat. They want to invest in an experience. So that is why we've got a dedicated experience page as well on our website, where you look for experiences in over 40 categories as well. So if you want to get married on a yacht, that's possible with us. If you want to go cave diving, you find that category as well. If you want to go scuba diving in Mexico, we have that category. So you do not necessarily have to look for a boat on our platform. You can browse for experiences, be inspired, and find the appropriate boat for that respective experience that you're looking for. And people are loving it. And we've had boat rentals and boat owners joining us because of that experience page, because that doesn't exist like that yet on this planet. And we're very proud of that experience aspect.
Awesome. And I'll be sure to share all of that on the show page for this podcast as well.
Oh, thank you so much, Brad. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
So can you tell me, what does your typical morning routine look like now as in the startup space?
A morning routine is fairly boring, to be honest, but it is a bit of a routine. I'll wake up and we wake up our 6-year-old son first. We get him up. We give him breakfast. We make sure he goes to school on time. And that's really important to us. Our son, Alex, he's 6.5 years old. He just went to primary school. He joined primary school 3 weeks ago. So that's an awesome experience for us. And prior to school, we had this routine with kindergarten. And after that, I'll have a healthy breakfast. Healthy breakfast. a lot of fruit, have a shower, and then I'd open up my emails and my Instagram, and I'll catch up on my social media, and I'll block out time for that. I'll make sure I catch up on my social media. I love that. It gives me a sense of satisfaction to be able to say, look, at 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm done with that. Then I can focus on like strategic tasks, be it meetings, be it writing an article or reaching out to potential partners. So you asked about my startup life. I said boring, and I mean by boring, I mean it's just a typical family morning that starts with waking up our son.
Oh, I mean, I think boring is fine. It's especially important for the audience to understand that no matter what we're doing in our lives, a lot of, everybody wakes up the same and does a lot of the same things.
Yeah, I agree. And by boring, I didn't mean anything negative. Actually, on the contrary, it's boring, but that's why it's absolutely all right. So I don't do anything extraordinary in the morning, God forbid. We look after our family. So if that's sorted and, family functions and everybody's happy, that's when you perform afterwards, be it in your job or your startup. That's what we believe.
What are you specifically looking for in your social media feed in the mornings?
I'll be honest. I like to go to our Boat Affair Instagram. We're very active there because we engage a lot with boat owners, to be honest. We talk to them. We seek their feedback. So it's not only about posting pictures and then try to get as many likes as we can. Not at all. We use the messaging function a lot. And I think that there's so much value in that. In Instagram, you search for a certain hashtag boat owner, hashtag sailing lifestyle. You find people in the industry. You have a conversation with them. We love that. We have found many boat owners and clients through Instagram. So I'm sorry if this was a little Instagram shout out. Not my intention.
No, it's fine. I mean, we live in a social world, and this connectivity is so much easier than it's ever been. I hate on social media a lot, but the way that it connects us and enables us to send a direct message to somebody and get an actual response. I mean,
and that's what it's about. And I just want to be responsive. That's our aim in general with Boat Affair. So in the mornings, I look out for the conversations we've been having. Have I received an answer or a new conversation or request overnight? I want to know that. And if yes, I'll deal with it. And that's the main task, to be honest.
How do you block out social media throughout the rest of your day? What steps do you take?
Do you know what I do a lot? And I've done it right now as well. I apply the flight mode on my iPhone. I do it before going to bed. I try to turn it off like at least an hour before I go to bed. Flight mode. I've done it now. Nobody can reach me. I do it during meetings. I try to do it whilst reading an article. If I don't go into flight mode, I'm very, endangered in that I would just pick up that phone, have a quick look, and a quick look can turn into 10 minutes. So I have to, again, train myself and just find a system to beat the social media system, if that makes sense. So I go into flight mode. That's how I beat it. Very often, I mentioned like half an hour ago that my wife and I, we go for walks in the forest often, or we go and exercise. I really, really leave the phone at home. I'll go to the forest. And then people ask me, but what if something happens? What if you have an accident? So my reply is always, but 20 years ago, I used to go mountain biking. I used to go for walks. I used to go skiing without an iPhone. And nobody ever asked themselves, what if anything happens? You just wouldn't ask that. You just have that mindset that nothing's going to happen. And bam.
And I mean, like you said, 20 years ago, we weren't tethered all the time. And you're in the startup space. So I know that, and you've been in the VC space. So I know you know better than anybody the amount of testing that goes on with all of these different things and how they grab our attention and don't let it go. And in some ways, we're kind of slaves to the phone, just the shape of it, the buzzes, all these things. And really the only way to untether ourselves is to leave it at home. Don't bring it with you or put it in airplane mode, like you said, which is exactly the same thing that I do at night as well.
Oh, wow.
So speaking of putting it in airplane mode at night, what's your evening routine look like?
So again, I have to and want to and must mention my family. Yeah? So we have dinner together. I have an evening routine with my son, which I really love. I look forward to that every day, if I'm at home, obviously. And if I have sufficient time, which is most of the time, I make that time. We have a routine. I put my son to bed. Now we do homework together. I don't know when he has to go to bed. That's between 7:30 and 8:30, depending on the day. And after that, I love to work for about 2 hours. I am very productive. That's just me. Other people aren't. I am. I'm very productive between 8:30 and 10:30, 11 p.m. I love that period of time because I do not get as many emails as I do during the day. You don't get called on the iPhone. You can focus. And I love to write blog posts during that time. I love to write articles. I love to reply to difficult emails. Or I love to have a very fruitful discussion with a team member. And we do that in the evening on purpose because it's the same with my team members. They also know they will not be interrupted by any outside force, shall we call it. So I love that time. And then after having worked for about a couple of hours, me and my wife, we either, let's face it, we're boring. We watch a series or we read a book. And that's it. Or we sit down in the summer. Now it's still the summer here, really. Coming to an end, the European summer. But we love to sit on our balcony and we just toss around ideas or brainstorm. And that's sufficient, that's beautiful. So that's the evening.
My wife and I are the same, and I think we, embrace the boring.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Embrace the boring. Yes.
It's a method of self-care and rejuvenation. And honestly, at the end of the day, I like to look at what I'm working towards. And mostly, like you said, I'm working towards a better relationship with my wife. I'm working towards spending more time with her and improving our lives. So if that's what I'm working towards, then it makes a lot of sense to devote a lot of my day on that specific aspect of my life. You can't want to have an amazing relationship and then work 16 hours every single day and ignore your partner, right?
Yeah.
It's a necessary thing.
Totally agree. And there's one point I want to make here, just real quick, and that's that we attempt to realize when it's really time to go offline, but also get away from our startup. And so there's also obviously evenings where we don't work after 8:30 and we just sit on the balcony for 4 hours and brainstorm. Or we go for a little walk with our son before he goes to bed. And so he goes to bed a bit later. Also at the weekends. I mean, we're a startup, so I can't just go offline for an entire weekend. I don't want to. I get anxious. I admit it. You have to check up on a regular basis on things, right? But we recognize the need to, create those offline windows. And then it's our job as the founders to communicate those windows to our team to make sure that, things are still up and running. And that's something we have to realize. We have realized, not to 100% yet. Of course, things can always happen. But we do recognize the need for that and do it on a regular basis. So we can't work for 2 weeks non-stop without going totally offline, and then we go offline for a day. That doesn't cut it. That's when we get burnt out, as in we get really tired. You have to do it on a regular basis, almost daily. Recognize that, isolated hour, be it in the evening, be it in the afternoon, where you consciously go offline, communicate with everybody, and realize that life is really here in front of you. Apply the flight mode on the iPhone as well.
As a leader, do you help your team members untether as well, so that they can have these blocks of time where they can be rejuvenated and not burn out? And how do you go about doing that as a leader?
Yeah. That is really important to me and to my wife, to both of us. That's really important to us. And it sort of happened in a natural way. So by communicating to our team members that we have the need to go offline from time to time, that we communicated clearly, that of course opens up a window of opportunity, and that you can then talk to your team members about that topic. And I'll tell them as well, that they need to define that Boatafare-free space as well, the startup-free space. Go and forget about it. If you have to go out on a Friday, go out, have fun, go and play tennis, go and play badminton. One of our team members is taking tomorrow off actually, the guy who works in Italy with us. He's taking tomorrow off because he's doing his boating license. And this is a very cool example. He asked me just recently, look, Adrian, can I please take the day off? I'm so nervous. I want to take this boating test. I need to study. So I gave him an extra half a day off because I want him to succeed. I told him, look, go offline right now. Stop what you're doing. If you have, I asked him, do you have anything urgent with any customers? He's like, no, Adrian, I don't. So I told him, go offline right now. Go offline. Stop what you're doing. Don't talk to me for 1.5 days. Go away. Do your boating license. Try your best. Don't be nervous about it. If you fail, you do it again. Try to analyze what went wrong. But I, as a leader, and as your employer, and as your, as the CEO, I want to make sure I create this environment for you where you go out there, you go offline without a guilty conscience, go and do that boating test, and come back and tell me about it. And then let's have a coffee first, and you tell me about it. And then I had another idea. I'm like, if the first time you go out on a boat with your new license, let's take a few pictures and let's do a blog post about it. Let's tell people about what you've done. Don't tell people about me, giving you 1.5 days off. That's boring. Go and tell people what you're doing because you're passionate about boating. People need to see that. So I try to motivate my team members by giving them that offline time. And it's healthy for everybody involved.
I love that. And I just interviewed Rich Sheridan, and he's the CEO of Menlo Innovations here in the States. And he was telling me that they're a software company and they believe in a 40-hour work week. And when their employees go on vacation for a week, they'll get a phone call if they start checking their emails, their work emails. Their time on vacation is meant to be on vacation specifically with their family to rejuvenate. And I think that lots of companies don't take that care in, really understanding their employees and knowing that even from a selfish business perspective, if you don't let them rejuvenate and they burn out, they're less productive and you don't get as much out of them anyway.
Of course, Brad, there is that. I agree. There's that selfish component, obviously, which is normal as well. Because if my colleague passes that boating exam and he gets his boating license, and he furthermore recognizes that we gave him the space to do that without a guilty conscience, that person will be more motivated again to perform and excel at their job for our startup. But I really also mean what I said before. It's healthy for that person. I know myself what it's like when you're too tired. And it's just about, I have to set that environment right. They have to know that it's all right to go offline. And then it's, a win-win situation, of course.
Yeah, it's just about aligning everybody's alignments being together and making sense.
I agree. Yeah.
So what's one of your current large goals that you're working towards right now?
We want to create this awesome community of boat swappers, private boat owners who join us and give us early adopter feedback on this scheme. We want to make that happen, not for us, but for the boat owners out there. We're really adamant about that we are really authentic in what we're doing because we want to help those people. So our number one goal, our number one wish is to really create this community where people exchange thoughts in an authentic and transparent manner so people can get more out of their boat. Boating becomes more sustainable, which is good for the planet as well. We want that community to grow. We believe that so many people out there can benefit and meet new people. We want to revolutionize the way people travel. You don't have to go and rent boats anymore. Storage are exchanged. That's a big wish that we have at the moment. Also on a private level, because I'm a boat owner myself. If this community grows sufficiently, I'll go abroad and I can try out a boat without having to rent it. And I'll meet an awesome person, the boat owner, in that process. We get to connect. Hey, that can be very valuable. What if we connect on a business level later on as well? You never know who you meet. We just want people to connect in a very meaningful way. We are very, very, very adamant about that, and we care about it. That's what I mean. And that's our number one wish.
How does it make you feel when you see people using your platform and connecting and they share these experiences with you?
Immense gratitude. Because when had you asked me 2 years ago, are you going to pull this off? I'd have told you, well, I'm just happy if we go live with this website. Yeah, that was a major step. Yeah, we live 2 years ago. And now people are signing up. Just this morning, as I told you previously, a boat owner in Switzerland signed up, uploaded his boat. I made it live. Because boat owners can't make their boats live. It's a quality thing we have. It's a quality control process. So I made it live. I had a conversation with that guy yesterday, though, and he signed up for exactly those reasons. He wants to meet like-minded people beyond his circle of friends, yeah, internationally. So that proof of concept almost on a small scale, that people believe in that, they take half an hour out of their busy schedule and create that boat listing with great care, add fantastic pictures, create neat sentences to describe the boat. That's amazing. That's really amazing. And that fills us with such a great amount of gratitude. It's hard to describe. That's just amazing.
Awesome. There's nothing like somebody using your creations and getting happiness out of it that gives you that sense of fulfillment.
Yeah.
Do you have any books that you reread every few years? And if so, which ones?
That's so interesting. Yeah. My wife and I just yesterday talked about this one book we've both read, and we both want to read again. My wife has now started. In fact, she started yesterday. It's by Paulo Coelho de Sahir. Yeah. And he talks a lot about these big concepts of life where you have to escape certain mechanisms, stop being a slave to a certain societal system, and don't just exist, but actually live. So our entire story, the boat affair story, our transition, my piano excerpts, my stories around that, anxiety which you experience, I experience, that's totally normal. And we want to reread this book by Paulo Coelho because he talks about those processes, about those ideas in great depth. And we just discovered that book a few days ago in our cellar here. And now we really want to read it. And we believe in a certain energy thing, yeah? And this is now a very good example. We just discussed that. Your audience must really understand, yeah, Brad, that you and me did not discuss this book question at all. I didn't know you were going to ask me about a book. But just yesterday, less than 24 hours ago, my wife and I had this conversation that we both want to reread this Paulo Coelho book. And today you asked me about which books do you want to reread. That's just awesome, you know, on an energy level. So that's that, yeah.
Awesome. I'll, again, be sure to put the book on the show page on the website. Let's imagine there's a 20-year-old carbon copy version of yourself listening to this interview. What wisdom would you like to impart on him?
Such a cool question. That's such a cool question. I'll probably say, stop listening so much to what others have to say about you. You know, if you talk to 20 people and ask 20 people what their opinion is about you, you might get 20 different opinions, and everybody has their own idea of what they see of what you should do in your life. So I'll tell my 20-year-old self, listen a bit less and try to distinguish a bit more who to actually listen to and who not to listen to. Pursue your passion. If you encounter naysayers, try to realize that a bit faster and grow that thick skin a bit faster, because it's totally normal. Adrian, you're 20 years old. It's totally normal that somebody will take apart your idea. Feel down about it by all means, but no more than 5 or 10 minutes. Get up again. I'd love to be able to say that to myself almost 17 years ago.
Yeah, there's a fine line that we have to walk between being humble and also being receptive to the criticisms. Because sometimes, I mean, let's be honest, they might be valid. We may need to change the way that we're doing some things, but also have the thick skin to say, with conviction, what you know to be true, no, I'm doing it this way, and I'm living my life this way, and it's your choice, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's so important to talk to people and get various opinions, yeah? But my point was simply try to discern and distinguish between those who just criticize for the sake of criticizing.
And those who have your
grow
best interest, right?
grow your thick skin there. But those who constructively, give you feedback and tell you why they give you that feedback, those people you can engage with, absolutely. But that's probably what I meant. So
Yeah,
17
right.
years ago, grow that thick skin where you really need it, and do your thing despite negative criticism, which is unfounded. That's what I mean. Yeah.
When you experience negative criticism that's unfounded from a human being, do you take any steps to disassociate yourself with those human beings?
Well, I try nowadays. Yeah, I try so often to just ask myself, why do you think they mentioned that to you? Why do you think they said what they said? There's always a reason, and there's most of the times there's a reason that you don't see. Yeah, so everybody's got their own story, everybody's got their own battles they're fighting, and you don't know about those battles. So what if that person had an off day? What if they meant it in a wee bit different way? What if I misunderstood it? So I try to see the bigger picture in that. I try to ask myself and push myself to see that it could be perceived differently as well. And that's my disassociation process, not with the human being, but with the words I heard. And if need be, if I can't let it go, pick up the phone, confront them, ask them. And that's not always easy, and I don't always get it right. I do not want to be all clever about it. It's easy to say it, but that's what we try to do, what I try to do.
And I love that. And it's so true that even, we had a conversation yesterday. I have the benefit of being able to listen back to the conversations that I have with people because they're recorded, that you don't often get in real life. And even in our conversation yesterday, when I listened back to it today to figure out this interview and how it was going to go, I realized that I misheard some things that you said, and I had to listen to them a couple of times to get the tone right and to actually realize, oh, this is what I thought he said, but now I see what he actually meant. And in real life, we don't get that opportunity to hear things twice. So wouldn't it be a really sad thing if somebody misheard something somebody else said, never brought it up, and then just had that belief inside them for a long time that wasn't even the intention?
Exactly. So you don't want to burn bridges where there's no bridge to be burnt, right? And you don't want to hold that grudge inside you that eats you up over the years. No, go and talk to the person. If you still dislike that person afterwards on good grounds or for a good reason, so be it. That happens, right? At least it won't eat you alive because you made an effort. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome advice.
On what you said, I really appreciate the fact that you and I, we had a conversation yesterday, over half an hour, yeah? That really shows me how serious you are in getting to know the guests on your podcast. And I really loved what you said. So you want to get to know who you're talking to. And I can see that you want to achieve the maximum results for your audience and for yourself and for myself, for me as the guest. And that's incredibly nice.
Thanks, man. Thank you. I'm very grateful for those kind words. I'm trying to do my best. Have you ever strongly believed something only to reverse course later on in life? And if so, what led to that change of belief?
Right. Probably in terms of people or a certain person, that has happened to me. Exactly what I meant before, like a minute ago, that something has happened between you and the person, and you didn't make an effort to understand why that happened. That can be like a small fight over a matter during an MBA class, yeah? And you think that person said that, so you got annoyed. I wasn't mature enough, so I wouldn't really follow up and ask that person, what did you mean by that? And only 3 years later, by talking to a common colleague we have, I learned, that person meant it totally different. And she meant no harm, and she said it because she had that problem. And that's what, makes you realize sometimes that things are not always what they seem, especially when you think it's all negative. And I think that's, Brad, that's what you and I discussed at the very beginning of this podcast, that sometimes your own perception really differs from how others see it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that difference in perception really needs to be taken into account. So I want to answer your question with that example. Yeah.
Awesome. I love that answer, and I love finding the truth in things. And life's about relationships. And it would be really sad to lose relationships that are valuable to you because of a misunderstanding that we didn't have the courage to confront and ask, is this really what you meant?
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, yes.
So if you could share one truth with the world, what would that truth be?
Be kinder to each other. I had that conversation yesterday with my son as well. I really want to teach my son to be kind to others. It can bring you so much in life. If you're kind to people, like just with by smiling at somebody, a smile can evoke so many emotions in another human being. Try that out. That's a strategy I told my son yesterday, and that's something I try to live by. Be kind. And I really meant what I said earlier on. Every person has their own battle somewhere inside them. We don't know about that, and not everybody shares that. Try to take that into account. Before you get annoyed, try to be kind. If you want to put it in a sarcastic way, you could still say there's enough time to be annoyed afterwards when you're proven wrong. That makes sense. But that's the sarcastic me. Be kind to each other. There's only one planet. We're all here with the same desires. We all want to get through life. Try to be kind.
And we all have our own crosses to bear that aren't always visible to people.
Yeah, nicely put. Yeah.
Where can my audience find you on the World Wide Webs? Right.
So my startup and I are really visible on our website, boataffair.com. That's where we live with Boat Affair. Myself, I'm on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram and on Twitter. It's always the same handle. It's always Boat Affair. Very easy, very clean. We're very prominent on Instagram. We share our stories. We share everything we have on Instagram and Twitter with the aim to engage with our community, to get feedback, to learn their stories as well. And that's why we love it. Facebook, same handle, from an Instagram Facebook page called Boat Affair, where we share stories as well. We run surveys. We ask questions. We want to learn about what is important to you guys in the yachting industry, in the boating industry. That's where we're to be found. And the latest news will always be on our blog, which is on boataffair.com.
Just don't expect a response after Adrian's morning time on social media.
I'll do my best to get back to you or one of my team members.
Adrian, I love this conversation. I think it's immensely valuable. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy life to talk to me and share this with my audience.
Thank you, Brad. Same here. I really enjoyed it. It was a very honest conversation, and it made me think a lot about what's happened in my life and what's important. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Next time on the Process Podcast, I have with me former head of worldwide distribution at the Walt Disney Company, co-host with his wife, Rachel Hollis, of the Rise Together podcast, which is a top 20 podcast, and the current CEO of the Hollis Company, Dave Hollis.
The question you have to ask yourself, is life happening to you or is life happening for you? And I fundamentally came out of the experience of this loss and this, test, believing that all of that happened for us, that it made our marriage stronger, it made our kids stronger, it made our faith stronger. And so I'm grateful for it, even though it was wrapped in pain.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Process Podcast or head to mentallyinvincible.com and join our email newsletter, because this is not an episode you want to miss.